Vice Chair, and Jason Winston, member. And we have in the audience today, I see Councilmember Mary Norwood as well as Councilmember Antonio Lewis. We do not yet constitute a quorum. We need one more person. But what we're going to go ahead and do is move on to the items that we can do without having to take any action on. Is that going to be okay with y'all if we do that? All right. So it's either public comment or should we do the presentations first?
Mr. Chair, we can go forward with public comment unless you want to wait for a quorum, and then if so, we'll go to presentations.
I think let's go ahead and get, we have a pretty full agenda today, so I'd like to get going. So let's go ahead and move on to item E, and we'll backtrack to the adoption of the agenda and approval of the minutes once others arrive. But for public comment, I just want to remind those that have signed up, you have 3 minutes to make your comments. You'll see a clock on the screens behind me. As your time winds down, we do ask you to wind your comments down as well. And then if you have them in written form, you can always submit them to us that way. So with that, Ms. Santana, are there any public comments? Oh, I see one. Brian, I don't have my glasses on. Brian Sumlin. Mr. Sumlin, if you're in the audience, please come up to the podium, and we will get you going. Oh, thank you. All right, is Mr. Sumlin in the audience? Okay, I'll keep moving on. The next speaker is Timaeus Roper. Mr. Roper. Okay, I'm going to continue on. Moki Masias. Hi.
Hello, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Moki Macias. As you may know, I'm Executive Director for Policing Alternatives and Diversion, affectionately known as PAD. And I wanted to come down today. I know that that budget season gets a little wild and squirrely, and I want to just uplift the work of PAD to this committee in particular, and just to share a little bit about what we're looking to do in this next fiscal year, so you have that information at the tip of your fingertips. So I have some draft language here for the renewal of our MOU, which I will share with you after my comments, as well as just some additional comments about what we've been able to do this past year. So I just want to share, we're less than a year in to our citywide expansion to cover all of the City of Atlanta neighborhoods. In that year, we have increased our staffing by 300%. We have increased our geographic capacity and coverage by 200%. We've increased our service hours by 50%, and we've increased the number of pre-arrest diversions that we've accepted from the police department by 77%. So we are well on our way in terms of expanding these kinds of services citywide. What we need, though, from the city is the support to really institutionalize this approach and the staffing to be able to have a felt impact in every single neighborhood that we serve. What we're looking to do this year is to double our case management team so that when people are diverted to us by law enforcement, we're able to provide the holistic wraparound case management services long-term that we're known for. We want to double our response team so that instead of 5 teams providing citywide coverage, we actually have 10 teams providing citywide coverage. That would allow us to actually site teams in particular zones so they can start to get to know your constituents, so they can start to get to know the neighbors on a more intimate level and be closer to the scene to provide mobile response. We want to double our community engagement team. What we're looking to do is knock on businesses, knock on residents' doors to really let people know. Often when we're out in the community, we find that, in fact, not only are we educating people about the ability to call 311 for an in-person response for quality of life concerns, we're actually educating about 311 existing, right? And so it's that kind of partnership that we want to continue with the City of Atlanta, to be able to really encourage people to use the existing public services and to know that we, as a partner to the city, will provide an in-person response to the many issues that I know your offices hear about related to homelessness, related to quality of life concerns, mental health, and substance use. So I just want to ask you to, of course, support the allocation. We're looking for $4.5 million from the City of Atlanta this year in order to provide the services that we are currently providing, but to double our impact. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we look forward to hearing more about it during the budget hearing process. So thank you. All right, our next speaker I have Brian Sumlin down again, but did Mr. Sumlin or Mr. Roper show up? Okay. All right. Well, that concludes our public comment. We'll now move on to presentations. The first up is the Department of Human Resources quarterly update. So, Commissioner.
All right. Good afternoon. Jeffrey Norman, Commissioner of Human Resources. Want to present the Department of Human Resources quarterly report. And so,
Commissioner, if you don't mind, now that we have Councilmember Dozier here, we have a quorum. If you don't mind, let me go back real quickly and take care of the two just administrative functions here. Again, we're joined by Councilmember Jason Dozier. If we can, now that we have quorum, let's go ahead and get a motion to adopt the agenda. So, moved by Shook, second by Winston. Let's open that vote, please.
One moment.
Dozier's aye.
Are you sure? All right, is this throwing y'all off?
It's okay. The vote is open. The vote is closed.
4 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. The agenda is adopted. Next item is approval of the minutes. Can I get a motion, please? Moved by Winston or Dozier, seconded by Shook. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
4 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. The minutes are approved. Commissioner Norman, my apologies. We're back online with you. Thank you for letting us do that.
Thank you, Councilmember Wan, and members of the Finance Committee. Jeffrey Norman, Human Resources Commissioner. So here to provide our quarterly report to the Finance Executive Committee. So first off, we'd just like to, thank all of the members of the Department of Human Resources staff for their relentless work, especially as we approach and work our way through the budget season. And so if we have the presentation up. Okay, so we'll run through a couple of highlights, which will touch on Employee Assistance Program, the Fitness Center, COVID response, talent acquisition, premium pay, training and organizational development, as well as those procurements that are in process. And then we'll touch a little bit on the quarterly headcount statistics. So at the outset, just wanted to note that May is recognized as Mental Health Awareness Month. And so wanted to, kind of share some of the metrics relative to our EAP program. So in general, we see on average roughly about 10% of our workforce population taking advantage of our Employee Assistance Program staff. We do have a full staff of approximately 12 behavioral health specialists who are segmented to support the respective departments. What we continue to see as we recognize this May month is that, there's a keen awareness that the pandemic has somewhat accelerated some of the challenges in the mental health field and some of those impacts that it has not only on the nation at large, but our workforce here at the City of Atlanta. One of the things that the statistics show, those things do have a disparate impact on communities of color as well. And so we also have that reflective of our workforce here. But we do continue to be proactive to make sure that we are engaging that population. We have distributed this before, but just wanted to share again that we do continue to provide these QR codes where folks can go in, they can take these surveys, they can ultimately be tied in to behavioral health specialists as well, so that they can then have the support that they need to kind of work through any anxiety, and especially as we have had members of the workforce kind of reintegrating in person versus telework deployment. So next, wanted to just note that, and thank you guys for, a lot of you were able to join us on Monday for the Fitness Center reopening. And so the official hard opening for the Fitness Center is going to be on Monday, May the 16th. And so we will continue to advise folks, that this is the 5,000 square foot facility that is located directly across the street at City Hall Plaza, right across from City Hall. And so employees have the ability to have access to state-of-the-art exercise machines. They also will be able to, utilize the locker room. They have juice bar on site. There are opportunities to engage with individual training staff and to make sure that you can achieve your health and wellness goals. And so what normally happens is, as the start of your engagement at the fitness center, they will do an evaluation to kind of tell you what your current state is, do BMI, those types of things, and then you can, as you proceed, you can kind of see what those touch points are. We'll also make sure that we work to track, what that looks like from a health perspective, so we can come back and report some of those outcomes to the committee as well as we proceed. So I wanted to share a little bit of information relative to the COVID-19 vaccination efforts that the city has engaged in during the pandemic. So what you'll see on the chart that is before you is the self-certification and the percentages of those response rates. So we ultimately achieved a 97% response rate overall citywide. And so that is basically the attestation from members of the workforce as to what their current COVID status was. And so that is letting us know whether or not folks were actually vaccinated, whether those individuals were not vaccinated. And then obviously, we did have a smaller portion of folks who, did not feel comfortable sharing that information. But we ultimately did, reach the objective and capture that large percentage of our workforce. We'll shift to the next slide. This will kind of show you, as a result of the self-certification process, we then supplemented our vaccination efforts to hold over 20 city-sponsored vaccination events. You'll see kind of the breakdown there with a time chart. Ultimately, we were able to get shots into 866 arms. We do anticipate that we will have additional vaccination opportunities in the future. So we continue, and the next chart will kind of show you where we are from a progress standpoint. So if you look at this chart, it will show you that we're close to approximately 84% of the, and that's inclusive of folks who have finished the cycle, people who are in the midst of the cycle, and those folks who are actually scheduled for vaccination. That puts us right at about 84%. So we're looking at about 16% of the population that we're still encouraging to go through the vaccination cycle. All of the medical advice, definitely steers folks to understand that the best protection against the COVID virus is the vaccine. So we will continue to focus on that part of our non-vaccinated population as well. One of the incentive tools that we have utilized is the continuing allowance for a $100 incentive. And so that is currently approved and authorized to go through June 30th. And so it will expire at the end of this fiscal year. Obviously, we will reevaluate at that time whether there is a need to continue that. And so just so folks understand, so for the initial first two shots, that inception of that program was September 15th, and it will expire June 30th of 2022. So any individuals who have been vaccinated for their first or second shot between those time periods continue to be eligible for that $100 incentive. For those individuals between October 18th of last year through June 30th of 2022, who receive the booster shot, and that is both booster shots, they continue to be eligible as well to receive a $100 incentive. We do distribute on a pretty frequent basis the links for folks to go in and make sure that they can then upload their information so that we can validate their eligibility for those payments. So we will continue with those incentives as we continue to cycle through those dates. Also, just wanted to kind of share with you, some of the recruitment and retention efforts of our talent acquisition team. They continue to be busy. So you will see that we have had, job fairs, and, I won't go through detail on all of these. You can obviously review those. But you'll see that, for example, we had a job fair at Young Middle School. We've had specific things that are relative to specific departments where we've had job fairs relative to our 911 communication dispatchers. We continue to participate in community job fairs, career fairs, whether those be at religious institutions, whether they be at our recreation centers. You'll see that we also continue to make sure we focus on our mission critical positions. So you'll see, for example, we've supported APD in their efforts. One of the recurring events that we're participating in as well is the mayor's midnight basketball event. So we do have a HR staff that's dispatched on those Wednesday evenings to make sure that they are able to interface with those members of the public who are interested in job opportunities. And we will continue to, support our departments such as Parks of Recreation. We continue to do things at aviation out at the airport, and I'll share a couple of those photos so you can just kind of see some of those interactions. We also continue to have, weekly or biweekly, hiring blitzes relative to the Department of Public Works. You can see some of the results, some of the offers for some of those positions that have been tendered there. And there are others on the next page that kind of break down, looking specifically at some of our solid waste EWS positions as well as our drivers, those folks who do require that CDL certification. This is just a sampling of, from a visual perspective, of some of the recruiting flyers that continue to be out there that folks are able to access, not only on site throughout city facilities, but also through social media. So those continue to be available. Just sharing a couple of the photos, with staff, and so you'll see that we have folks out at the airport, with those job fairs. You'll see, for example, the event that was held at Lenox Square in coordination with the Atlanta Police Department. And so you'll continue to see those types of productive events, as we continue to make sure that we focus on those efforts to assist the departments with really tapping into those members of the community who definitely want to take advantage of job opportunities here at the city. So I know that, there have been continued conversations relative to premium pay. So just wanted to kind of revisit this and share a little bit of information. And so there were targeted departments that were originally included as part of the premium pay program that allows for an additional $3.12 to be affixed atop their base salaries. That's approximately $500 per month. And so those individuals, the departments that were chosen based on the criteria we established was corrections, transportation, public works, enterprise asset management, and the Department of Parks and Recreation. You'll see that that is approximately 1,383 employees who are currently participating in that program. We will see a reduction for Department of Corrections. Earlier, the latter part of last year, we did approve actual salary increases for the sworn corrections officers. Those go into effect on July 1st. And so those sworn members will roll off of the premium pay program, but they will have a small subset of civilian employees who will still be participating in that program. We have also had discussions with the Department of Watershed Management. One of the things I did want to note for the committee is that the Department of Watershed Management was not included in the premium pay program. One of the primary reasons for that is, unlike some of the other departments, we do have designated positions within the Department of Watershed Management who already receive a $3.50 component on top of their normal pay for hazard pay. And so that is separate and distinct, from this premium pay. I have been advised by Watershed Management that they are doing an analysis of additional staff within their department that they do think will be eligible for FY23. It will not be that pool of folks with the additional enhanced compensation, but they do feel there is a subset of folks within Watershed Management that will be eligible to participate in that for FY23. Wanted to touch a little bit, have shared before with you about the opportunities for the self-paced administration of training. What we have identified is that we got approximately about 6,400 folks who are designated PC users. We have done well with that population of employees doing the mandated training. For those folks that remain in approximately 1,500, those folks, we do have to make sure that we have in-person opportunities for them to have access to that training. So we are working through that cycle, doing that in-person training. So we do anticipate we will be able to complete the full cycle for the entire workforce to make sure that we do have folks who are getting through those really relevant topics. Wanted to talk a little bit, share with you, I think we've shared these before. These are some of the major procurements that are in progress. Obviously, I think we have shared that we are looking to stand up a citywide compensation study so that can inform us relative to the market as it relates to our employee workforce and our needs to look at compensation here at the city across the board, across all classifications. And so we anticipate that when we're able to successfully onboard a proponent, that we will hopefully have those results the early part of the second quarter for fiscal year 23, and then we will be able to evaluate those and make some recommendations based on those results. Secondly, we're in the process of going through the employee health care benefits selection process. It has not gotten to the evaluation stage. We have received proposals. Obviously, the ultimate choice there will impact our calendar year 23 healthcare plan, since we do cycle on a calendar year. So once we're able to have a successful proponent, those will obviously come back to City Council. And last, relative to the Wellness Center, which is adjacent to the Fitness Center, we're also in the process of bidding that out as well. And so once we get through the evaluation process on that as well, that successful proponent will be brought back for City Council approval as well. Lastly, wanted to share the current headcount statistics, keeping in mind that when we talk about headcount, this is going to cover all of our citywide positions. This is looking at all funds. It's inclusive of extra help positions. And so this is really anybody that is in a seat. And so do have a chart here that kind of runs the gamut of our operating departments. And so that concludes our presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Commissioner. We've got a line starting up for questions. Really quickly on the headcount, those are the actual employees hired and filled, or is that the authorized positions?
Those are folks who are actually in seats. So that's the actual folks who are sitting in seats in those respective departments.
And then our citywide fill rate or vacancy rate is what, Mel? Maybe 20%?
Yeah, so right now, I think the last time we looked at that number, we're hovering citywide around 23% vacancy rate.
That means we have an authorized position count of well over 10,000 at this point, correct?
Roughly, it's at that high 9,000, 10,000, yes.
All right, Councilmember Dozier, followed by Councilmember Winston.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Commissioner Norman, for your presentation. I really appreciated seeing all the different recruitment events that we're doing. I'm curious if we're doing any sort of recruitment efforts or partnerships with APS, with their high school graduates, and seeing if there's an opportunity for those students to work with.
So so we have had discussions about that, and obviously as we kind of leverage some of the summer opportunities, but we're having really more creative discussions relative to creating pipelines for those populations with the school system. So I know we're having a lot of discussions about, how do you funnel folks, for example, into the fire department, through some of those existing programs where we're in the school, but they're getting that type of exposure. So when they graduate, they really already have a baseline ability to go ahead and transition if they're not seeking to go to secondary school. And so, we are looking at those types of things. So we really are trying to design those pipelines. So we're doing a lot of that analysis to figure out how to really get our hands on that part of the population. And I think you will also start to see a little bit of that as well as we talk about some of the outreach efforts with some of the other proposals that are out there as to how we do training programs and how we interface with people within that age group. So that is where the main focus is for those underage individuals.
Perfect. And then my other question, just on that similar note, during one of our budget hearings last week, there was a proposal about military recruitment, identifying folks separating from the military and bringing them on board in a public safety capacity. I pushed back just a little bit just to say that I think that many members of our military can do all the administrative work, logistical work, the transportation support work. So, trying to find a program that can, be more open to that population, and thinking about that further, recognizing how with many of our companies across America that are trying to attract military veterans, there's a retention challenge, and oftentimes many of our corporations lose their military talent because folks don't feel at home, they feel out of place. And that got me thinking, with our existing retention challenges that we've had in the city of Atlanta, I would love to see if, I know y'all might have some KPIs or metrics tied to employee retention by department. So I'll be curious to see that either in a future presentation or in an email. We'd love to see that information by department, what our retention rates are. Whether at the 6-month mark, 12-month mark, who are we losing at a higher rate? But the other question I was curious about was, do we have any sort of employee resource groups in place here at City Hall? In corporate America, you see these used to create camaraderie amongst employees with similar backgrounds. So you see it a lot you see veteran resource groups, for instance, in parts of the country that are less diverse than Atlanta. African Americans, LGBTQ, other groups tend to be able to find affinity with their fellow colleagues and coworkers through that mechanism. And I was curious if we had anything like that here at City Hall that we could potentially utilize as a way to retain employees.
So we have been having discussions about integration of employee resource groups. We're scheduled to stand up our first employee resource group hopefully in June. And so we've been working with Malik Brown to stand up a LGBTQ employee resource group. And so, we think that will be very useful based on some of the initiatives that we're currently evaluating. But we do anticipate that following that, we will be rolling out additional groups. So that is something we really have teed up for FY23. But we'll be starting that off with that first group in June.
Thank you so much. Mr. Chair, that's all I have.
Thank you, Councilmember Dozier. And before I recognize Councilmember Winston, we've been joined by Council Members Michael Bond, as well as Keisha Waits, as well as Council President Shipman, and Councilmember Matt Westmoreland is in the audience. Mr. Winston, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Commissioner Norman, for your presentation. I'm very much encouraged by what you all are doing with retention programs with our existing city employees. One thing I'm curious about is specifically, what city departments are you seeing the biggest need for personnel right now?
So, we continue to obviously, make sure that we are focused on, our mission critical staff. And we obviously, are all aware of challenges that we continue to see. One of the main positions, for example, when we talk about CDL drivers, that's a very tight market right now. So we continue to focus on public works. to make sure that we are engaging and providing them with resources. It continues to be a challenge with CDL drivers, but we have found, I think, some robust pipelines that we're able to competitively, I think, recruit from. So those efforts continue. You're also aware of the commitment relative to public safety to make sure that we keep increased focused efforts there. So we continue to work with them as well as the fire department to make sure that they have those pipelines available. But those are the things that I think are at the top of the level. Part of what all of the operating departments are doing as well is making sure that they are doing operational reviews to make sure that they are providing excellent customer service and aligning their staffing and working plans, with those authorized personnel. And so, every department is engaged in those efforts, but the ones I highlighted, I think, are the ones that really have the radar on them at this point relative from a recruitment standpoint.
And then the only other question I had for you, obviously Atlanta is known for, so many great universities that are here.
Yep.
Got one across the street that I'm an alumni of. What are we doing, if anything, to reach out to some of these universities and maybe looking into internship programs to help fill some of the voids that we have in our personnel departments?
Yeah, so we obviously do engage at that level. We do have other things that we're reviewing and analyzing as well to make sure we have the appropriate partnerships in place. And so that is inclusive of the earlier discussion, making sure we're doing it at the high school level, but also making sure, for example, we're going to have a hiring event over at Georgia Tech, that is specific for IT professionals. And so we continue to tap into those local resources to make sure that we're getting the message out, that we're really letting folks make sure that they are aware, of the positions we do have here. And we got a lot of public service minded individuals we know in this region. And so there are great opportunities here. And so we continue to push that out and show we're competitive and actually an employer of choice.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
All right. Other questions from my colleagues for Commissioner Norman? All right. Thank you very much for your presentation. All right, colleagues, I understand that Ms. Roper, who had signed up for public comment, is back in the room. She had to attend to her children when we were calling out names. So if it's okay with everybody, I'm going to jump back and have her come to the podium and make her remarks. Ms. Roper, just a reminder, you have 3 minutes. You'll see a clock behind me. And thank you.
I would like to thank you for allowing me to speak. This is actually more of a public safety. However, because I've been having issues for myself, and so the fact that I've been going through so much because of illegal things that the cops and things have been doing, and they have hacked my information to where I cannot contact an attorney. So the main reason I'm here is to see if I can have some assistance to where I could be able to contact an attorney because of things I'm going through. And even with the programs that are available, it's like they are spending illegal funds to fund what they're doing to innocent people, and that's why and that's the main reason I would like to get an attorney. So I came here to see if I could have an attorney, if somebody could assist me with a good attorney.
So, Ms. Roper, yeah, go ahead. Finish.
Go ahead. I apologize.
No, please finish your comments.
No, go ahead.
I was going to suggest, have you been to the Office of Constituent Services down on the first floor? Because I believe that they would actually be the ones who can most directly kind of understand your situation and get information from you and then identify and connect you with the appropriate city resources. And if you know where their offices are, they're just down on the main floor in that corner. I just want to try and get you the most direct help as quickly as possible while we're unfortunately sitting up here.
And I totally understand. However, because they have been paying people to not actually assist me, meaning they have been spending funds. I'm pretty sure it's taxpayers' funds to pay people for them not to assist me, because I have went to different. I have went to the law enforcement. I have went to even the local office as far as administration for them to assist me. What I'm saying is that they have been actually paying people for them to not assist me with getting an attorney. Again, they have hacked into my devices to where I will not be able to assist, to where I will not be able to contact an attorney.
You've mentioned law enforcement, and that's why I'm suggesting that you go down to constituent services, because they're not with law enforcement, they're with the city and the mayor's office. And again, I think they might be the ones, again, not understanding your entire situation completely, they might be the best ones to connect you quickly right now.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Ms. Roper. All right, colleagues, let's go ahead and continue back on with our presentations. The next item up is the, where's my agenda? Invest Atlanta Financial Update. I understand that Dr. Clementich can't be here today, but she sent her team, so I'm sure in capable hands.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Jennifer Fine, Vice President of Planning and Strategic Initiatives. Yes, not Dr. Clementich. But happy to be here to give our quarterly Invest Atlanta update that will include economic development, tax allocation districts, and WorkSource Atlanta. Obviously, I have two other colleagues behind me. And first up, I'd like to introduce our Director of Economic Development, Noah Downer.
Good afternoon, everyone. Mr. Chair, committee members, President Council. So as Jennifer mentioned, I am the newly joined Director of Economic Development, so really excited to spend some time with you all talking a little bit about small businesses and ARP in particular. So the first slide that we have really starts out talking about the impact that we're seeking as an organization. So anytime as Invest Atlanta, we're with our community, with our business owners, residents at large, we're trying to be focused on the impact. So when looking across the city of Atlanta, there are almost 17,000 licensed businesses in the city. And what we're talking about through the expansion and the development of new programs that you'll see here on the next couple of slides is that we anticipate that we'll be able to reach 15% of businesses over the next 3 years. And what's really awesome about us reaching those businesses is not just it's a touch point that's a touch and go, but there's actual multiple touch points that's going to happen throughout that life cycle of us working with those businesses. So what are some of those new and expanded small business programs that I was just talking about? And really today's presentation is going to focus on the American Rescue Plan. So on this slide, that's the light blue that you see. So in terms of new programming, standing up new small business hubs, we'll talk a little bit later on about the technical assistance and the platform that we've launched. And then, of course, small business grants, which I'm sure many folks are familiar today. So to give you a little bit deeper look into the American Rescue Focus Plan, there really are two areas or two key components in the program itself. So you have the small business and then you have the workforce development side. So on the small business, it's the affordable commercial space. You have grants and the technical assistance. And then on the other side, training, support services. And then what are we doing as a region working with our partners in that space? So as I mentioned, grants, so everyone hopefully is very much aware of the Resurgence grant program. This is actually a program for small businesses and nonprofits that was launched about a quarter ago, and originally had a date of deadline for an application of last month, which we actually pushed back to later on this month. But these grants are designed to be able to help our small businesses and nonprofits be able to mitigate the factors of COVID-19 and the challenging business environment that has existed there. We're very much focused on KPIs, so we're not just looking at the number of small businesses being awarded a grant. We're not just looking at the creative businesses that are awarded the grant, but in particular looking at the percentage of vulnerable small businesses that are applying, and then being able to segment that out actually by NPU. So very excited about that. And then one of the other KPIs that I think is possibly the best one is not just giving a handout and helping an organization, but it's the number of small businesses that have become financially stable as a result of these grant programs. The next program that's in there is in the Technical Assistance Program. So this is where we have developed 5 small business hubs in different areas across the city. We have one at Pittsburgh Yards, we have one at Goodwill, we have one at Mary Parker Foundation, amongst others. But this is us reacting to the needs of the community. So understanding that we can have these small business hubs in different areas across the city so that we can be more accessible. These small business hubs are staffed with Invest Atlanta staff and or small business advocates that we have who are able to help meet with businesses, identify what the challenges are that they're facing, and then ultimately come up with a plan to help them resolve those challenges. So part of those challenges can be resolved through Invest Atlanta programming that we offer, but we also have other technical assistance providers that we've contracted with to be able to help out companies. So if you need some legal assistance, if you need some marketing assistance, whatever it is, the challenge that you're facing, and perhaps even developing a business plan, we have more than a dozen technical assistance providers who are there at the ready to be able to support. So one of the other areas that we understand, and in particular in today's environment, is access to affordable commercial space. So we're seeing rents rise, but this is a program that we have where we're going to be partnering with different nonprofit partners across the city who are going to acquire the commercial space and then be able to lease it back to those small businesses and creative industry tenants so that they can have access to below market rates. So again, some KPIs there at the bottom, really focused, breaking it out by NBU to be able to track the number of businesses, but also the square feet in particular. So if you recall, I talked about that there was a small business side and there's also a workforce development component. So looking at the workforce development program, this is a program for hiring and hiring in jobs for vulnerable populations. So trying to support those residents across the city so they can have access to good and promising jobs. And so these could be individuals who are experiencing homelessness, could be folks that are in the reentry population, but it's providing them with access into paid work experiences, paid apprentices, and good and promising jobs, and providing that wraparound services so that they can be supported as much as possible. And then finally in the workforce is talking about the regional parts, the regional aspect of this, right? We know that where you go to sleep may not be where you end up work, where you drop your kids off for school may not be close to where you live, perhaps your child care isn't in your direct neighborhood. So looking for ways to working with our regional partners across Metro Atlanta and at the state to be able to provide services, not just focused on the city, but in conjunction and in collaboration with our partners. As far as the timeline, we're actually in the latter portion of the American Rescue Plan. We do anticipate a couple more RFPs coming out here in the next month or so, in particular on that affordable commercial space that I mentioned to you earlier, in addition to the regional workforce and then the hiring and jobs program. So several of those items that I discussed, in particular the grants, the small business programs, having the offices in the communities have been launched, a couple of other items a little bit further down the line. But thank you very much, and I'll hand it over to Jennifer Fine.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Thank you, Noah. Good afternoon again. So I have a few slides to share for the quarterly TAD update. Since this is the first time before this committee this year, I will give you an overview of what we did in 2021 as well as through the end of April of this year. So as I'd like to do each quarter is just to show the 10 tax allocation districts in the city, in particular for those who might be watching or listening and might not be as familiar with all of the 10 TADs within the city. Also want to reiterate that Invest Atlanta is committed to not funding new projects within the Atlantic Station or the Princeton Lakes TADs as directed by City Council. We are pledging all available increment to pay down bond obligation, and happy to report that last month in April we made an optional $16 million payment on Atlantic Station. So we are trending and anticipate that debt service in Atlantic Station be completed and paid off by the end of 2025. So happy to report that. All right, 2021 overview. This is our snapshot table, and I'm proud of this slide for several reasons, but primarily because of just the breadth of different project types that we're able to fund throughout the city of Atlanta in our tax allocation districts, big projects, small projects, again, throughout the city. So in 2021, 27 projects or programs in 8 of the TADs were awarded funding. So that's all of the TADs that have open programming. We were able to deploy resources to those communities for projects. So over $33 million in TAD increment was spent, and leveraging nearly or just over $390 million in private investment. And again, these projects focus on affordable and workforce housing, both rental and for sale, which is really important to express that. It's very, very challenging and hard to really move the needle on affordable residential on the for sale. It's unique that a development authority is actually getting into that space. So we're proud to do it and happy to do it, and hopefully we'll keep reporting on us being successful there. In particular interest on this slide, of the 1,305 total housing units, 998 or 76% of those are or will be affordable when they're constructed. And this is just a detailed compilation of the projects that I just went over. It's kind of intended to be a standalone document for you to see line by line, month by month, the projects that are approved at our board, to be open and transparent with those, and I'll continue providing these to this committee and CDHS quarterly as well. So through the end of April in 2022, this is the snapshot of our TAD activity, nearly $5 million in tax allocation district increment has been deployed for projects in 4 of our TADs, leveraging over $42 million in private investment. Again, the range of projects included a residential multifamily development in the Campbellton TAD, a building rehab of a long vacant commercial space in Vine City, in the Vine City neighborhood in the West Side TAD, as well as a pre-development loan for a very large mixed-use residential development in the East Side TAD downtown. That's a project in partnership with United First Methodist Church, very large project, and an affordable for-sale townhouse development, new construction in the Beltline TAD in the Oakland City neighborhood. So again, this just provides detail of each project month over month, so you can see that. So the last few slides for me really just visual representation of the projects that we've awarded funding to in the last 3 quarters. Some of them should look familiar, and some of them are brand new and not out of the ground yet. Again, representing the variety of project types. So the first project on top is Brentwood Commons in the Campbellton TAD on Campbellton Road near Greenbrier Mall. That's a $30 million new construction project. Will create 113 multifamily units, 108 of which will be affordable. Really important to note the income range here from 50% of area median income to 80% of area median income. And this is estimated to be completed by the end of 2023. And then on the bottom is a small mixed-use project in English Avenue neighborhood in the West Side TAD by a local nonprofit developer, Oaks ATL, which has a mission to provide deeply affordable housing to area residents. The project will create 6 units of housing on the top 2 floors with rents at no more than 60% of area median income. and the ground floor will be 2 small retail office spaces geared towards neighborhood serving retail. Anticipate food, beverage, and maybe some very small kind of co-working space. This next slide, the top image, is a very unique project for us. It's the rehab and improvement of another long vacant commercial building on Donald Lee Hollowell in the Perry Bolton TAD. It's about a $2.5 million project, received a $500,000 Resurgence Fund grant for a full-scale rehab and build-out, which will create about 8,000 square feet for a medical office tenant, a national credit medical office tenant, and then an additional 2,500 square feet for ancillary retail. Work has begun, and it's expected to be completed and occupied by the end of this year. Just important to note that it's the first project from this new fund in the Perry Bolton tab that we funded. We subsequently have 2 more applications in, so we're encouraged about the level of interest in our ability, again, to get these TAD dollars out to businesses on the corridor. The bottom is also a large-scale neighborhood commercial rehab of a long vacant building. Again, in the West Side TAD, in the Vine City neighborhood, this will bring 12,000 square feet of neighborhood-oriented commercial back to life. The focus will be on, again, community-oriented office and commercial space, really targeting local businesses. This image on the top, these maps are somewhat hard to see. Hopefully you can see them a little bit easier. But the top image is geography of a project within and around the Grove Park neighborhood in the Perry Bolton TAD. The Grove Park Foundation, which is a long-standing nonprofit, community development corporation, was awarded $1 million to help acquire property and construct affordable single-family for sale. The funding will help them finance and construct 14 homes to be sold to income-qualified residents at no more than 80% of area median income. And when we say 80% of area median income for a for-sale product, that is a very deep level of affordability as opposed to when we mention 80% of area median income on a rental. In general, 100 to 140% of area median income for a single family is considered affordable. So what we're really trying to do here in working with the Grove Park Foundation is really create much more affordable opportunities for home ownership within the city of Atlanta. So the completion of this project is estimated to take about 3 years because it'll be a revolving project as they construct and sell these homes. And then lastly, the image on the bottom should be familiar to most. The National Center for Civil and Human Rights is underway with a significant expansion and reconfiguration. More than $50 million project received some West Side TAD funding support to assist with the build-out, to create more space for educational and cultural programming to really position and focus the center as the global hub and resource for the advancement of contemporary civil and human rights issues. So very proud to help support that project. It's about a 24,000 square foot expansion and is expected to be completed by the end of 2024, I think is the latest. So I know that was quick, but we'll have time for questions at the end. But right now, I want to turn it over to my colleague, Amy Lancaster King, to talk about WorkSource Atlanta.
Thank you, Jennifer. Good afternoon, Chairperson Wan and members of the committee. Thank you for having me today. Oops, wrong direction, maybe. Did you have one more slide? There we go. Awesome. Okay. Perfect. Again, I'm Amy Lancaster King. I'm still fairly new, not quite a year in the role as Executive Director for WorkSource Atlanta. I'm going to provide an update for our program year, which starts July 1 and goes through June 30th. Just to give, for those of you, I know there's a lot of familiar faces from the CDHS committee, but I'd like to refresh those that aren't just about WorkSource Atlanta really quickly. First and foremost, we are funded by WIOA, the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act. We get around 3 to 3.5 million a year. Those are 2-year grants, and those expire. So if we don't use it, we lose it. So that's, for the Finance Committee, that's the biggest piece. We have 3 major types of participants that we serve. So adults, 18 and over who are unemployed or underemployed, dislocated workers, again, 18 or older who have been either laid off or let go due to no fault of their own, and then youth. And for youth, we have 2 types of youth. In-school youth, which are between 14 and 21, and they are actively engaged in some sort of formal training. It could be secondary, post-secondary, or some sort of job type training program. And then out-of-school youth, ages 16 to 24, that are not connected to any formalized training program. But for both of the youth, they not only have to meet low-income requirements, but there's other barriers to employment that they're experiencing. We do have some stringent eligibility requirements. Our primary focus of all of our funding is to provide workforce training that leads to quality, sustainable jobs. So some of the things that our participants may need may not be training right now, but our funding is really specific, or really focuses on training people up for quality jobs. We do have our one-stop center, which is a computer lab and resource library that doesn't require any eligibility requirements, and you can come in and get career service advice, you can come and work on your resume and those types of things. So again, no eligibility requirements in order to take advantage of that resource. This first slide walks through some major things that we track around enrollment and number served. The bottom line in bold shows you enrollment numbers and number of served so far this program year. As you can see, for enrolled, that means that they're actively enrolled in training, or they're on our caseload. So there's continuous support that's happening even after they might have finished training, but prior to exiting the program. The number of served is everything that we're doing. So if you look across the bottom, we're on track to surpass last year's numbers and some pre-pandemic numbers in all of those areas. The farthest right number shows all of the services provided, and that surpassed the numbers for the last 5 years. That includes things like career advisement, supportive services, work experience, and of course, training. For adults, we're on track to surpass 2020 enrollment by the end of the year. For dislocated workers, we've exceeded pre-pandemic numbers, so we're excited about that. And then for youth, we've exceeded 2020 numbers for the number of youth served, and we're doing a big push. This is the time of year where we push for summer work experience and youth enrollment, and we are working in partnership with the mayor's summer youth program to really get a lot of youth enrolled. So we expect to see that number increase significantly before we close out our program year. And these numbers are through April 30th too, so there's a few important months to incorporate in there as well. In addition to tracking number of enrolled and number served, we also track other performance metrics around employment. So how long are they employed? Are they still employed 2 quarters and 4 quarters after exiting the program? What types of credentials, or did they obtain a credential, or is there some sort of measurable skills gain? We negotiate those types of metrics with the state, and we are on track. There's 12 metrics total, so we are right now surpassing our negotiated performance rates for 8 of those, and the other 4 we're very close to getting on, meeting our goal, and expect to get there by the end of our program year. Oops. Sorry, that one was supposed to be pulled out. I'm happy to talk. I'll talk more through finances. So increasing access, we've seen obviously this program year has been impacted by the pandemic. We've been open for our resource center for a while for in-person visits. Obviously, we opened back in November, had to close again during the holiday and the spike in January, open again. However, we're still not seeing the level of traffic that we would like to see, so we're really being intentional about engaging with the community and getting out of our Pollard location to do that. We have hired a community outreach outreach coordinator to kind of oversee that work. We're also collaborating with other community-based organizations, Westside Works, Goodwill, Gateway. We've been at many, many events. We're averaging about 10 different events per month. Last month, we actually presented at the NPU University. And our meeting, we've already been talking with NPUY to partner with them to make sure we're servicing those families over there at Thomasville to get them set up and enrolled in the program. So a lot of intentional work. We have our primary contractor for services handling normal inflow of participants, but we have a WorkSource team dedicated to cultivating partnerships and helping to serve those partnerships directly. When it comes to some of the admin stuff that's been going on, this is all stuff under the hood. I'm really, really proud to say that our monitoring this year from our state, the state entity that we get our money from, Technical College System of Georgia, we only had 3 minor findings. When you compare that to last year, we had 13 findings. Some of those were carried over. Those findings hadn't been resolved. We were able to resolve all 13 findings before this monitoring. We only had 3 minor findings. 2 have already been resolved. The third one will be resolved after our board votes on it. And the other key piece is no disallowed costs, because as you know, we are 100% funded with WIOA. So if we get disallowed costs, we have to come to you for general funds. So very, very proud of that, and the team and the board actually did a lot of really good work to get us in that position. We have completed 3 RFPs. So those of you that are on the CDHS committee, look for that to come to you. Hopefully, it has to be this next CDHS meeting. No pressure, but lots of pressure. And then we're also looking at doing a full review of all of our files. I had mentioned previously about a number of people being served. So we've got people on our rolls. Some just came on board. The goal is not to hold people on the rolls. The goal is to get them through training, get them placed, and get them exited. So we're just reviewing all of our files to see who's in a position that we need to probably get exited. And so we're best serving everybody. On the finance piece, we are on track to spend down about $3.3 million in grants that expire June 30th, and then obviously sufficiently obligate the funds for the next program year with these new contracts that we have headed to CDHS. One thing that we've learned from the state is their allocation of WIOA funds was reduced by about 10%. That will flow through to us. We know some of the numbers. We do not know all of the numbers yet, but we know it's going to be around 10%, so around $300,000 decrease for this upcoming program year allocation for us. And we are going to be working really hard to massage the budget so that we can still deliver and improve our delivery of services, quite frankly. Not just maintain status quo, but how can we do that with a reduction in funding? This reduction is on top of a reduction of last year of 5%. So this is a going trend. So just know that we are expecting that we will continue to see the budget from the state decline. And then outcomes. Ooh, that looks bad up there. I hope it looks better on your end. We had just some feel-good and very important highlights. We had 8 students graduate in March with their GED. These are students that had some major barriers. They might have had a young child. They were either homeless. They've had reentry challenges, lots of different barriers, but they completed, so we're really proud of them. This was the first class we've had graduate in quite a while. We also had our first on-the-job training placement. That is really cool because we were kind of on pause with OJTs for a while, for about 6 years. So this is our first one back into the on-the-job training ring, which is kind of complements what Noah was talking about for small businesses. If we can partner with small businesses to place our participants and subsidize those wages for a short period of time, that helps not only our participants, but it also helps the business. So looking to do that more and kind of just dipping our toe in the water on that right now. And then Reducing time to eligibility. So we've done some significant work. The frontline team has done some awesome work to reduce the time to eligibility from 72 to 45 days. And I know 45 days still sounds like a long time, but believe me, when you look at the amount of documentation that we're required to get on people to justify why we're helping them and spending money on them, it's significant progress, and we're on par with the other work source boards in the region on that. But that doesn't mean we want to stop there. We've made significant progress, but we're hoping to get that down even more. So that concludes my report, and I just want to shout out the staff. We are small but mighty, but man, they're doing a lot of great work. And that's it. Thank you. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. All right, so we've got Councilmember Dozier has a series of questions, and I don't know if, I guess the right person will jump up to answer the questions he asks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Since you're the last person to present, just real quick question for you. For the youth numbers that you presented before, how is youth defined in that situation? Is it 16 to 18 high schoolers, or is it a broader definition?
So that is a broader number. That's combined 14 to 24. So that would include both our in-school youth and our out-of-school youth. Gotcha. I will say the bulk of that number, I think, is actually in-school youth, though.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And then for my other questions, I guess, Jennifer, I guess you're the first question I had was it was presented with regards to affordable commercial space that we're using, tapping into some of our ARPA funding opportunities to tap into our ARPA funding opportunities to support subsidies for commercial space, recognizing that this federal funding stream is a very limited program in terms of it's going to expire at some point. I don't know if maybe this is a legal question or a broader question, but I'm curious if TAD funding would allow for a similar type of programming. So I know when we have projects come before the Investment Ladder Board, there's a affordable housing requirement, usually breakdowns of different AMIs, but some of these programs or projects have a commercial component or mixed use, and I wonder if there can be a way to ensure that we have affordability for our commercial space. Because often when I talk to neighbors and residents and folks in our communities who are concerned about preserving the integrity of our communities in terms of our culture and history and legacy and institutions, it's more than just the people. It's also businesses that are a big part of that. And so I'm curious if there's ways to
yes,
that.
Absolutely. So, I mean, you said it pretty eloquently in terms of, the places are, there's lots of different variables that make up great places. Obviously, where you live, where you shop, where you eat, where you do lots of other things. So preserving commercial affordability is very important, and it's been woven within several of our TAD programs for a number of years. So it is a requirement. If we're funding a project that has over 5,000 square feet of commercial space, multi-tenant space typically, then they're required to offer at least 20% of that leasable space at least a 20% discount of market. And so that's the minimum standard or requirement on the TAD side. And then we do compliance. Typically that's a 15-year compliance period, so longer than some of our others. And our compliance team in Invest Atlanta oversees that, and we have reporting requirements. So definitely yes.
Okay, perfect. And what reason why it was so interesting to me is because I don't see it discussed as much as we see affordable housing. I feel like every housing project that we have come before, whether it's before council or we're in a community meeting, we talk about these affordability mixes. 20% units set aside for 15 to or. I'm not going to try to do math in this form again because last time I tried it was not. But at the end of the day, I think it would be great to as a body, as a city, to talk more about these opportunities for commercial space.
Absolutely, and agree wholeheartedly. And I think one of the reasons why you might not hear about it as much is because the opportunity to get in that space as the city or Invest Atlanta is limited. So TAD is one of the very few tools that we have currently that allows us to try to impact there. So there's lots of opportunity to try to have more impact, perhaps with different tools. But TAD absolutely can help do that.
Thank you. And I did have another question around the Resurgence grant. I was curious how many applications we've seen so far, what percentage of the applications have been kicked back for various reasons. I know we've gotten a presentation before with, I think before the CDHS committee, but I know that with the extension of the deadline, there's probably some newer numbers with regards to the overall health. And so I'm curious about that. And then I've gotten feedback from constituents and from folks who are looking to apply. Some of the requirements laid out. If you're a business, you have to have a business license. If you're a nonprofit, you have to have a letter of good standing with the city. And as they're trying to navigate 311 to request that information, they're waiting on that documentation. I know the recommendation has been for them to apply and submit their paperwork anyway. But I'm just kind of curious if you can delve a little bit deeper into what we're seeing with the Resurgence grant.
So I'll probably have to circle back with you specific to Resurgence. Part of the challenges we've got. So my mention is Resurgence, which is a TAD program, like on the logo of the city right there. We have a TAD program called the Resurgence Fund. It's TAD funded. And then we have Resurgence, obviously, that is the very well publicized, these $40,000 grants. That's what you're talking about. I don't oversee that program, but we have a team that does that, so I think I can follow up with you after to make sure we can, address those questions. But you got some?
Yeah, and I think I can provide a little bit more. So absolutely we'll have to follow up on the number of applications, but very much aware in particular the business license question. A couple of things we can ensure that the whole group gets. One, there's a dedicated email inbox that we're monitoring for folks to send in their questions and for us to be able to answer. We also have the same function available via our chat on the Invest Atlanta website. But we also have the small business advocates that I mentioned earlier in the presentation. They really are experts in the application and what's on page 2, what's on page 3, who's a contact. If you show up in person at 7 a.m., you can get a response. So we'll also ensure that information is provided. But we also hosted a really successful webinar last week. Our innovation and entrepreneurship team partnering with SBA and with GMIN, talking about how to get a business license in the city of Atlanta. We had representatives on the call being able to answer questions. I think we had about 50 participants. So it's an area we're actively working on.
Thank you. And just a final comment, I will say that, I'm just past my 4th month in this role, and I don't think I've ever seen, even in my community organizing days or my community advocacy days, I don't think I've ever seen the amount of excitement around a program or a grant program from Invest Atlanta the same way I'm seeing around this Resurgence grant. So just kudos to y'all for getting the word out and then doing the work to try to process these applications. I know a lot of folks across the city are excited about getting the support they need to ensure their businesses and their nonprofits flourish.
Absolutely, and let us know where you need us. We're doing sales blitzes. We're showing up at business associations. We're hosting webinars. Wherever you need us, we'll be at. We'll send someone from the team, whether it's on a webinar or in person. Happy to help.
Mr. Chair, you're on my time.
All right, thank you, Mr. Dozier. Mr. Bond, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you all for your presentation. Well, I've got a couple of questions. One, it's really more not so much on the presentation, but on the strategy over at Invest Atlanta. Do you all have a coordinated strategy on affordable housing between the city, the Housing Authority, and Invest Atlanta? Is there something that has been worked out? Targeting the resources that people can apply for to build or develop affordable housing?
So there are a lot of different components. What I can say is there's absolutely a tremendous amount of coordination and working together and communication amongst several organizations, be it Invest Atlanta, the Atlanta Housing, the Land Bank, and then other organizations. So there's very much coordination to try to, reach the priority and the goals and ensure that there's awareness and that about the programs that are available to help leverage and incentivize the construction and of affordable housing, as well as the preservation of affordable housing. And there's also a lot of communication amongst those organizations to make sure that we're leveraging outside, be it philanthropic or other private dollars, to increase the resources we have. So there's a lot of moving pieces to it, and I just think the most what's made me the most encouraged or the most optimistic is again that communication and the coordination again amongst several organizations, so it's not siloed as affordable housing development has been done perhaps in the past. It's much more unified now.
That on a case-by-case basis for development where these entities coordinate, or is there's no intergovernmental agreement between AHA per se to have like a master affordable housing agreement?
Correct. Not in that sort of the way that it's phrased there. I know we have agreements with Atlanta Housing for separate programs, of which affordable housing is a piece, but as a universal kind of MOUs for affordable housing, I don't think it exists like that. It's not case by case, like per development. It's bigger and more coordinated than that in terms of trying to elevate and create funds that are well capitalized to be able to do several projects universally, be it projects that are led by developers coming to Invest Atlanta, or projects that are led by Atlanta Housing or the Land Bank. So it's kind of that universal tools that will be at all of the organizations' disposal to increase that development of affordable housing.
The person who needs to answer this question is not here, but I'm going to ask it on record. I asked that question, the one you answered, because earlier this year or last year, 8 years ago, the city of Atlanta deeded the Civic Center to you all. Then you all sold it to AHA, and AHA is about to develop it. Where we gave the Civic Center to you all for free, you all sold the Civic Center to the AHA for $20 million. And so they spent $20 million, in my opinion, that I think that you all should have given them the Civic Center, in hindsight, just the way that we gave the Civic Center to you all. Because the $20 million that they gave to you all, they could have spent on developing affordable housing. And so my next question is, what are you all going to do with that $20 million? How does it get reused? Or is there a strategy to use that money for affordable housing or for whatever purpose? And I don't know if you can answer that because you're not the head, but I wanted to get the question on the record.
So appreciate the question. So correct, I can't answer the question specifically about the $20 million. I am fairly certain, as much as I can be certain, that it would be redeployed towards affordable and workforce housing. But yeah, I'd have to go back and we'll provide you with an update on that.
So the last question, I don't want to dominate the conversation, is I'll make a statement and say I think we do need an overarching MOU between the City of Atlanta, the Housing Authority, and Invest Atlanta, because unlike the City of Atlanta, Invest Atlanta as the Atlanta Development Authority, a state authority, and the Housing Authority, even though it was created by the City of Atlanta and has it gets the majority of its funding from the Fed, is still a state authority, and they have powers and ability far beyond that of a Beer or Bortle municipality. And so if we're really going to target and be serious about developing affordable housing and leveraging all of that power, which is tremendous and considerable, to not only acquire the land, develop the land, you can float bonds to finance the projects, et cetera, to make a difference in affordable housing. I think that this committee, and if I may say so, Mr. Dozier, the CDHS committee probably needs to work and begin to have conversations about having an overriding MOU between these powerful entities and anybody else that ought to be at the table to leverage all of that to build affordable housing in Atlanta. And so my final and next question is for workforce development. I'm really pleased at what you've presented to us today because that's been the bane of our existence for many, many years, at least a decade over at workforce development. Fulton County does a phenomenal job. Nobody questions that, but those folks, even though this funding is federal, their target is people outside of the city of Atlanta limits. And so now it's come to the realization, a couple of things as it relates to the youth and development of youth in our city. The one is that recess is a good idea, which was always a good idea. It was asinine to take it out of schools, but we didn't do that. The state did that. But also making sure that shop and other trades are taught in school, because not everybody is made to go to college or wants to go to college. And so our school system had diverted from that early on because, Atlanta wanted to market itself as a city where everybody could go to college, had the ability to go to college. And though that's a great goal, but not everybody wants to go to college. So my question to you is, I know you're new in your role, you've only been there a year. How much have you engaged with the Atlanta public school system and having conversations and getting, not just capturing those who are at risk, who might have been, at your doorstep because of circumstances they couldn't control, but actually being an attraction or a magnet for the students who might want to have alternative training. And, it's not just the trades now, it's the IT sector. All these folks are moving here, and of course Google and Apple and some others are already here.
So we are building, we've got some really strong relationships with a couple of schools right now that have been going on since I've been here or shortly after I got here, and we are working on building that capacity. So one of the things that we have right now is we've just hired a new talent advisor to help us with that capacity, because the way we're structured right now, we do handle in-school youth internally to WSA. It's not under contract. That will change. It doesn't mean that we won't handle it. It means that we may not be leading it, but we'll continue to provide the partnerships. Before coming here, I served on the board of Atlanta College and Career Academy, was a founding board member, so I've got a great relationship there. And we are trying to get through this the summer youth push with a little bit of a short staff situation, but we're working on that as well. So we will be working more intentionally with the schools more broadly in APS. One of the challenges, though, that you're speaking to is our resources are very specific. You have to qualify. We have youth coming to us now that don't meet the qualifications in order to participate in our program. So there are things that we're trying to refer them to other programs that might be able to help them and get them where they want to go. One of the things that I would love to build out, but we would need money because it doesn't WIOA doesn't afford us to do some of that, is really increasing interest and awareness in these other occupations that you're talking about, right? So much of the school system, whether it be secondary or post-secondary, is driven by student interest, not workforce demand. And so how do we increase interest and awareness in these high-demand occupations, whether it be a 4-year degree or a 1-year certification? There are lots of different opportunities, and we need to really be able to showcase that. One of the things that we have done to really be able to do that is we've got set up with a company that does VR headsets so that we can showcase some of these more tech trades within take them out on our mobile bus, take them out to the schools so the students can get an idea. What does welding look like? What does construction look like? What does healthcare look like? Some of these more hands-on occupations so that they can get a little bit of a first look without being in the workplace that may not be ready for them, especially if they're under 18. There might be some, hazard issues and OSHA issues with that. But so we are working on ways to how can we, with our dollars and the constraints of our dollars, increase interest and awareness in those more tech-oriented type of occupations.
Just one quick follow-up question. Do you, now that you're part of the state authority, under Invest Atlanta, do you have the ability to contract with the city of Atlanta to provide those services to those youth who do not qualify for the programs underneath your funding guidelines? Could you then in turn have a contract with the city of Atlanta or the Atlanta public school system to provide those services for those same programs?
That's a good question, and I'm not sure how to. We're in the transition still, so I'm with Invest Atlanta. The rest of the staff are City of Atlanta employees. So right now, I'm not sure how that would work. At some point, could we, maybe. So I'm sorry, I don't have a better answer for you right now, given the current, just where we're at in the midst of the transition.
I withdraw.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bond. Before I recognize Council President Shipman with a question, I did want to acknowledge that Councilmember Byron Amers is in the audience with us as well. President Shipman.
Thanks. Just a series of quick questions. Noah first, good to see you. The creative talents element of the grants, how is that going? How's the outreach going? Sometimes the creative community can be dispersed, to say the least.
Yeah, so there's actually two updates on that. So most of the creative grants themselves have been dispersed. I'll get you the specifics on it. There's a minimum number that's actually left there. Moving forward, though, there's going to be a series of efforts that we have in the creative space, actually interviewing this week for a creative industries program manager position that would actually oversee the final dollars that are in that grant program, but then future grant programs that we're looking to develop.
Good. And then also vulnerable populations, does that include those with disabilities? And if not, could it be expanded to include those populations?
I don't know that answer. Perhaps so.
It does. That's one of the areas that it covers, including homelessness and people with disabilities. So yes.
Thank you. Just a quick question, two questions on TADS. One, you mentioned the expectation about the payoff of the debt for Atlantic Station. Is there any update on the expectation of payoff of the debt of Princeton Lakes?
I brought a couple handouts with me. Let me check and see, because I don't want to tell you the wrong thing. No, I don't have Princeton Lakes with me. I'll follow back as soon as I get back into the office. Right. I know we were on track with that one originally, so I want to say 26, but again, I'll follow back up.
Thank you. And also the 2021 disbursements across the various tabs on the camera programs, has that implementation happened? Do you know? I know it's a bit of a public safety question, but it's on your list.
Yeah, so the program that we funded across 7 tabs with the Atlanta Police Foundation, so we did execute that contract with the Atlanta Police Foundation, which means that the funds are available for them to draw down based on communication with them. I think they had started in the Northwest Quadrant, Perry Bolton tab. They're starting to draw down, but I think it's just started up. So we haven't seen money go out the door in the other tabs yet. So I think it's in the beginning stage.
Great, thanks. And then last question on WorkSource. The percentage of the population served is tilted toward youth in the last couple of years, just as a percentage of the whole population. I'm wondering if that's going to continue. Has that been a specific strategy? Has it been a funding notion? I'm just curious.
So there is a bulk of funding, like a third of our funding is purely dedicated to youth, both in school and out of school youth. So in that regard, yes. And I can't speak prior to when I was here, so we are trying to be very intentional about engaging youth and creating partnerships and better serving the youth here in the city. So going forward, most definitely.
Right. I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. President. All right. Any other? Yes.
I did make a note. End of 2027 for Princeton Lakes. So we're on track.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from my colleagues for the Invest Atlanta team? Seeing none, thank you very much for being here today and for the presentation. We'll see you next quarter. All right, colleagues, if Ms. Kempson Wright, that concludes our presentations, correct? All right, we're going to go ahead and move on to our agenda. Colleagues, I'm going to change this up just a little bit out of colleague courtesy to Councilmember Westmoreland. He's asked that we address one of the papers that was referred to us. It was a dual referral. It's item number 33, which is 22-1369, an ordinance by council members Westmoreland, Dozier, I should say, Winston, Bakhtiari, Hillis, Wan, Boone, Bond, Amos, Waits, Overstreet, and Lewis, as substituted by Transportation Committee, outlining increased oversight accountability, resident participation, and a commitment to improve project delivery for the Moving Atlanta Forward Infrastructure Initiative and for other purposes. Councilmember Westmoreland.
Good afternoon, colleagues. Thank you for your indulgence. I will be brief. A couple of thank yous. One, to the 11 members of council who co-sponsored this legislation. Two, to the folks in the law department who worked late into the night to make sure that the substitute before us today is ready to go. Quick background, Atlanta has a $3 billion infrastructure backlog. We made progress on that with Renew Atlanta and T-SPLOST in 2015 and 2016. All of us are either aware of or have lived through some of the pains that we had during those conversations, project costs that were well above original estimates, construction costs that went up, real challenges with program management and project delivery, certain projects touching a nerve because they weren't a part of the public conversation beforehand. A lot of things are different this time around. The Department of Transportation's existence is one of them. The mayor is obviously searching for several new commissioners in key departments. On May 24th, Atlanta voters will consider 3 ballot items that total $750 million in infrastructure spending. And a lot of the feedback that we all received has been incorporated into this piece of legislation that you see before you. Before this piece of legislation, this bond is both property tax and sales tax neutral. It includes much more realistic budgeting and a contingency fund in the event that construction costs continue to rise, as we have seen recently. The piece of legislation before you includes several provisions. One is that the project lists are binding. Second is that there is guidance and guardrails for the bond premium. There will be quarterly updates on progress toward project delivery by the Department of Transportation to the Committee of Transportation, Parks and Rec to CDHS. DEAM and DOP will report to this committee. The city auditor is being asked to conduct an annual review of financials and product delivery. There are some guardrails around discretionary buckets for district reps. Councilmember Faroki asked that the date in that category be switched from 2024 to 2025, and it has been in this substitute. There's a stakeholder advisory committee. I know that was important to the councilmember from District 7, 15 folks who will be appointed by the mayor, the council president, and members of council. There are explicit references to community advisory input, the city's community engagement playbook, making sure we are ADA compliant, and then finally, the biggest change from the legislation introduced last Monday to today is the incorporation of a Section 9 that deals with a delivery plan, a scope, design standards, completion dates for design, completion for construction, the start of construction. That will come to us at the end of September from the relevant departments, and then it'll be adopted by council before it takes effect. So I will stop there. Happy to answer any questions you have, and appreciate the feedback that we received from Atlanta residents who want to make progress on infrastructure and the folks in this body.
Mr. Shook, you have the floor.
Yeah, thanks for doing this. This is needed. It's helpful. I know you worked hard on it, and I think we all recognize that. In terms of the 15-member Stakeholder Advisory Committee, I guess the District 7 member you were referencing was probably Lee Morris. Here's my question for you. These have never worked in the past, ever. How do we make this one do what we want it to do?
Fair question. My personal previous experience with community stakeholder oversight related to capital projects came at Atlanta Public Schools, and we set up 3 oversight committees, one for the budget, one for special education, and one for capital improvements. I think that responsibility falls on the mayor, who will appoint 2 people, the council president, who will appoint someone, and then the 15 members of this body who will be responsible for selecting the other 12 with appropriate backgrounds and experiences to be thoughtful and persistent and urgent in meeting quarterly and keeping us accountable to the promises that we're making, as well as the departments that we help oversee. So I haven't been around for the previous ones. Doesn't surprise me that they struggled, but all of the optimism I felt when I got here 4.5 years ago hasn't been completely beat out of me yet. So I'm still hopeful that this one will be better.
Okay, so the substitute that you're referring to is already what's before us. We don't have to take action to
That is correct. We substituted in transportation before it came to you with a 6-0 recommendation.
I don't know what other questions or comments await, but I'll go ahead and move approval on substitute.
Motion from Shook, second by Dozier. The other thing I'll add is, I also think we have the benefit of the things that did not go particularly well with the original issues as a guidepost to what we would want this group to look at immediately. So, all right, there any other discussion on this?
I just want to say, thank you for your leadership and guidance on this issue. I think it's something that's very much needed. Just adding a level of accountability for the Moving Atlanta Forward initiative and ensuring project delivery. And maybe it's a little naivety on my end, but I think that having a new group of council members who really want to see this project through and make sure that it gets done, I'm happy to support this. So thank you very much.
Council President.
Yeah, I just want to take the opportunity to voice my appreciation too, and I think this is needed. Just 2 points. One, to Councilmember Shook, I would say that at least my appointment is going to be very social media savvy, because I actually think in this environment, oversight can be augmented by those that are very good at social media, so that's actually something that I would take into account. And two, I would just make the point that this is especially crucial in an inflationary environment. Because when you have an inflationary environment, the longer you take to do projects, they are going to get out of budget. And so it's super important, as we've moved from a low inflation to a high inflation environment, that timeliness is the utmost concern. And so I think that also has to be a real key concern when it comes to that advisory committee. They should be talking about timeline every single quarter. Thanks.
All right, there's been a motion properly seconded, made by Shook, seconded by Dozier. If there's no further discussion, let's open that vote, please.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. This item is approved, actually on substitute. All right, so let's go back to our regularly scheduled programming. Under Communications, item 22-C5071, communication from Danielle Hampton, Chair of the Audit Committee, submitting the reappointment of Ms. Amanda Noble as City Auditor. This appointment is for a term of 5 years, scheduled to begin on June 1st, 2022. Ms. Noble.
Good afternoon. I'm Amanda Noble, City Auditor. I've been in Atlanta for almost 17 years, with the last 5 as City Auditor. I'm very proud of our office and our body of work, but I do recognize some areas where we could use some continued growth and improvement. So I have 4 goals over the coming years. One, to finish implementing our audit software to leverage technology to complete audits more quickly so we can be more responsive to requests and improve reporting on the status of recommendations. To continue to build a continuous audit program to improve citywide internal control monitoring and risk assessment, continue to develop bench strength within the City Auditor's Office to aid in succession planning, and develop training for departments in internal control. So I am a strong believer in public service and audit's role in helping you to govern. So thank you for your consideration.
Questions or comments from my colleagues? Mr. Shook.
And how long have you been here in this capacity?
I've been City Auditor for 5 years, but with the city for 16 and a half.
Well, if she's willing to keep doing it, I'm more than willing to make the motion. Some of you, don't know what it was like to try to do this job without the auditors. And I mean, you talk about flying blind and instrument landings, and then they showed up, and things have gotten so much better because of their reports. So thanks to you and your team.
Motion from Shook, second from Winston. Are there any further comments? If not, let's open the vote, please.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Noble, for your service and, as Shook said, willingness to continue serving. All right, that takes us to consent agenda. Item H, ordinances for first reading. If Ms. Kempson-Wright, you'll sound those 6 items for us, please.
Item number 2 is 22-01385, an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor, his designee, to execute the Second Amendment to Cooperative Purchasing Agreement, FC 9726 Wireless Communication Devices, Voice and Data Services with Verizon Wireless Services, LLC, on behalf of the Department of Land and Information Management to extend the term of the agreement for 6 additional months to commence July 1st, 2022, and end January 30th, 2023, at the Department of Customer Service as an authorized user, and add additional funding in an amount not to exceed $2,401,331.63. All contracted work to be charged and paid from funding account numbers listed herein. Item number 2 is 22-01386, is an ordinance authorizing the mayor, his designee, to enter into cooperative purchasing agreement, CPS 1220202 AT&T Network Voice and Data with AT&T Corporation on behalf of the Departments of Atlanta Information Management, Watershed Management, and Aviation, utilizing Georgia Technology Authority contract numbers listed for a term of 16 months and 16 days, retroactively commencing February 14, 2022 through June 30th, 2023, with 3 one-year renewal options in an amount not to exceed $9,481,312.91. Item number 4 is 22-01387, an ordinance authorizing the Chief Financial Officer on behalf of the Department of Watershed Management to pay all extended invoices for services rendered performed by BGR2 JV, a joint venture of Black and Veatch Corporation River to TAP Incorporated and Gresham Smith and Partners LP for services rendered pursuant to task order number 92 for FC 7383C Architectural Engineering and Design Services from October 30th, 2021 through March 15, 2022 in an amount not to exceed $464,648.02. Item number 5 is 22-01388, an ordinance on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation to amend Ordinance 19-01452, adopted by the Atlanta City Council on September 3rd, 2019, and approved by operational law on September 12, 2019, for the purpose of adding an additional funding source. Item number 6 is 22-01389, an ordinance to amend Section 14626B, C, D, E, F, G, and H of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Atlanta so as to change the ad valorem tax rate of real and personal property for the general levy, debt levy, city parks levy, school operating levy, school debt levy, the special tax district levy, the Atlanta Beltline Special Service District levy, and the Solid Waste Special Service District levy, to provide that the tax rates established herein shall remain fixed each year until amended or repealed. And item number 7 is 22-01390, an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee to amend Chapter 114, Personnel, Article 4, Classification Plan of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinance, City of Atlanta, Georgia, so as to provide for certain position abolishments, creations, reclassifications, class creations, above entry authorizations, employee position transfers, position funding allocation changes, and other personnel actions in line with the fiscal year 2023 and for other purposes.
All right, thank you. Those will require no action from us during this meeting and will be before us again next cycle. Takes us to ordinances for second read, 22-01327. This is an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to pay outstanding invoices for COVID-19 cleaning services on behalf of the Department of Public Works, Office of Fleet Services, for services rendered by ATL Cleaning and Disinfectant Service, LLC, from December 22, 2021 through January 4, 2022, in an amount not to exceed $29,650.08, all invoices to be charged to and paid from the accounts listed below and for other purposes. Colleagues, we have an amendment on this that amends the legislation to update the funding source in Section 2. I'll entertain a motion to amend. Motion from Bond, second from Winston. Let's open that vote, please.
Vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. The paper is now amended and before us. And let's hear from the administration. Deputy Commissioner.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Anis Sasavav, Councilman Warren, and also members of the committee. Thank you for giving this opportunity to speak to you regarding this ordinance here. The Office of Fleet Services was severely impacted with this highly contagious Omicron variant that really impacted our team in late December. During this time frame, we had multiple positive cases with our team members, and we also had a lot of members that were really following the protocols for the symptom-like, for the COVID-like symptoms that they were developing. With the influx of positive cases at multiple facilities, which consisted at 5 facility locations that we had, we felt that the emergency situation that we had was to stop the spread of this variant that we were in dire need of as far as affecting our team. We reached out to our annual contractor. However, they were unfortunately experiencing a high demand too for the request. We reached out to a previously used company, Atlanta Cleaning and Disinfectant, who we've used previously for preventative quarterly cleanings. We had them come out to respond in a timely fashion to perform the necessary cleaning. One of the 3 factors that we determined for this emergency situation that we had to sanitize and disinfect our facilities was first, safety to our staff members, to clean and disinfect our facilities. Secondly, was to stop the spread of the COVID variant at our facilities as well. And thirdly, and our last item, was to quickly and safely resume our operations to allow our team members to be back in the facilities to make those necessary repairs for our first responders and also our operational vehicles, our core operational vehicles that needed definitely that expertise as far as resolving those issues that they have. This is what you see presented to you today. I'm here to answer any questions that you may have regarding that.
All right, there's a motion from Shook to approve as amended, second by Bond. You answered one of my questions in terms of how the second vendor was selected, and it was someone that we had previously used that had gone through our procurement process previously. Who ultimately in that situation, and I understand the emergency protocol behind this, but who ultimately gets the authority to make that decision to go ahead and move forward with them with the understanding that we come back to us?
Yes, sir. For the emergency procedures, as far as our policies for our purchasing authority, it is the approval and discretionary of the department head decision.
To the commissioner?
Yes,
okay, very good. Other questions on this from my colleagues? Again, a motion from Shook, second from Bond. Let's open the vote, please.
Vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. Next item is 22-01328, an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to amend the FY 2023 general fund budget to create additional office account numbers, to create additional department organization account numbers, to rename existing office account numbers within the Oracle financial system, to transfer personnel, to transfer contractual obligations for the Department of City Planning, and for other purposes. Ms. Singh.
Good afternoon, council members. The purpose of the legislation is to complete a financial reorganization in the Oracle financial system to match the current operating structure for the Department of City Planning. The previous legislation reorganized the front end but did not organize the back end in the Oracle system. So just trying to make sure those two match and be proactive for reporting purposes and accurate record keeping starting in FY23.
Questions? Motion from Shook, second from Bond. If there's no further discussion, let's open that vote, please.
Vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. This item is approved. Next item, colleagues, without objection, I'm going to take items 10 and 11 together. 22-01329, an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee to ratify services rendered in connection with agreement number listed emergency catering for the City of Atlanta with Carlisle's Catering beginning April 15, 2022, and to authorize the mayor or his designee to exercise the first renewal option under the agreement on behalf of the Department of Public Works for a term of 1 year retroactively effective from April 15, 2022 through April 14, 2023, to execute the First Amendment to add the Department of Transportation and the Department of Watershed Management as authorized users, and to add funding in an amount not to exceed $80,000.00 on behalf of the Department of Watershed Management, Department of Transportation, and the Department of Public Works, in accordance with Section 2-1163, subsection C of Article 10, Procurement and Real Estate Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, all contract work to be charged to and paid from the fund, department, organization, and account numbers listed herein and for other purposes, and 22-01330, an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee to ratify services rendered in connection with agreement number listed emergency catering for the City of Atlanta with Goldberg's Concession Corporation beginning May 1st, 2022 and to authorize the mayor or his designee to exercise the first renewal option under the agreement on behalf of the Department of Public Works for a term of 1 year, retroactively effective from May 1st, 2022 through April 30th, 2023, to execute the First Amendment to add the Department of Transportation and the Department of Watershed Management as authorized users, and to add funding in an amount not to exceed $80,000.00 on behalf of the Department of Watershed Management, Department of Transportation, and Department of Public Works in accordance with Section 2-1163, subsection C of Article 10, Procurement and Real Estate Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, all contract work to be charged to and paid from the fund department organization and account numbers listed herein and for other purposes. Deputy Commissioner, please.
Good afternoon, council members. It's Keith Robinson, Deputy Commissioner for Department of Public Works. Essentially, this legislation that you have before you is really to exercise a 1-year option for emergency catering for Carlisle's Catering and Goldberg Concessions. And really, when we talk about emergency catering, really it's inclement weather or for the frontline staff, and we're having to add ADOT and watershed management. Just to give you an allocation breakdown for each of those 80,000 for each of those contracts. Really, it's 15,000 for DPW, 15,000 for watershed management, and 50,000, for ADOT.
All right, questions from my colleagues. Mr. Shook has a question.
I'm going to go ahead and move approval of both items, but not before making a somewhat colicky observation and a request. I assume the phrase or the activity catering was probably woven into all the official bid documents and all that. It's probably an official procurement classification. But I would suggest that in the real world, an activity known as emergency catering might be something a normal person might expect to see in a Monty Python sketch. And so I'm wondering if there's an appetite in future to call this emergency food services.
Absolutely. I agree.
Thank you.
All right, there's a motion from Shook and a second from Bond to approve both items and to change the vernacular going forward. If there's no further discussion, let's open the vote, please.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries on both items. Next item is item 12, 22-01331. There's an amendment on this, but I'll go ahead and read in the caption. An ordinance by Finance Executive Committee correcting the funding source in Ordinance 21-0-0871 adopted by Atlanta City Council on November 15, 2021, and approved per City Charter Section 2-403, November 24, 2021, transferring $35,000.00 from the District 6 carry-forward account to the Capital Finance Fund to assist with renovations at Fire Station 19 in Virginia Highland and for other purposes. Colleagues, the amendment, you have a copy of this, corrects fiscal year 2018 to fiscal year 2022 and second whereas clause, as well as the operating transfer account number, and then changes wording from anticipations to appropriations in the appropriate section. Please, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Committee Chair, members of the committee. My name is Chris Davis, Deputy Commissioner for Dean. The purpose of this legislation is to transfer funds from District 6 carryover forward account to the Capital Finance Funds in an amount not to exceed $35,000 to provide renovation to the existing captain's office, including rebuilding of the exterior walls and the renovation interior space for Fire Station 19.
I'll put forward a motion to approve. Second as amended. We have to amend it. All right, I'll put forward the motion to amend. It's seconded by Shook. Let's open the vote to amend.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. The amended paper is now before us, and I'll put forward a motion to approve as amended. Seconded by Mr. Bond. Let's open that vote, please.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. This paper is approved as amended. Thank you. And the next two items I'm going to take together as we're going to take the same action on them. 22-01332, an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee to amend section number listed of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Atlanta so as to change the ad valorem tax rate of real and personal property for the general levy, debt levy, city parks levy, school operating levy, school debt levy, the special tax district levy, and the special service district levy to provide that the tax rates established herein shall remain fixed each year until amended or repealed and for other purposes, and 22-01337, an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee adopting the fiscal year 2023 proposed budget to include all funds and for other purposes. I'll put forward a motion to hold both items as we continue our budget hearing process. Seconded by Shook. Any discussion? Let's open that vote, please.
Vote is open.
All right, 6 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. These items will be held. Next item, 22-01342. This is and I have an amendment for this as well, but it is an ordinance by Councilmember Alex Wan authorizing a donation in an amount not to exceed $250.00 from the District 6 distributions account to Midtown Neighbors Association and for other purposes. The amendment is to update the amount to $500 in the caption and the text of the paper. So I'll move to amend. Seconded by Bond. Let's open the vote to amend, please.
Vote is open. Will everyone please vote? Vote is closed.
All right, 6 yeas, 0 nays. The amended paper is before us. We just did the amendment, right? Okay, so I now make a motion to approve the paper as amended. Seconded by Dozier. Okay. Dozier. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. That this paper is approved as amended.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir, Mr. Bond.
Mr. Chair, I need to be excused.
Thank you, Mr. Bond. Thank you for letting us know. All right, next item, 22-01344, an ordinance by Councilmember Howard Shook to amend the charter of the City of Atlanta, Georgia, 1996, Georgia Laws, page 4469, at SEEK, adopted under and by virtue of the authority of the Municipal Home Rule Act of 1965, OCA section listed, at SEEK as amended by amending Part 1, Charter and Related Laws, Subpart A, Charter, Article 2, Legislative, Chapter 6, City Auditor, Sections 2-603, Powers and Duties, to provide for subsequent reviews of the implementation of the audit report recommendation and for other purposes. Ms. Noble.
Yes, so the purpose of this change is to add a duty. We've always had a duty to follow up on audit recommendations, and this adds that departments have a duty to provide us information.
All right, questions or comments from my colleagues? All right, there's a motion from Shook to approve. It's seconded by Dozier. If there's no further discussion, let's open that vote.
Vote is open. The vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. This motion carries. And just colleagues, remember this is a charter amendment, so it needs 3 reads. It will go to full council, come back for one more reading in committee next cycle. All right, without objection, I'm going to take the slew of council donations and transfers together.
Mr. Chair, if item 24 is a part of it, I would actually like to have it removed from the block, and then we vote on that separately.
All right, so we're going to hold out number 24, but we'll take number 17. 22-01345, an ordinance by Councilmember Howard Shook authorizing the transfer of $25,000.00 from the District 7 carry-forward account to the District 7 salaries, perm part-time account, and for other purposes. Number 19, 22-01359, an ordinance by Councilmember Andre L. Boone authorizing the transfer of $7,000.00 from the District 10 carry-forward account to the Council District 10 expense account to continue serving the Atlanta community for the public good and for other purposes. 22-01366, an ordinance by Council Members Lewis, Westmoreland, and Waits, authorizing a donation in an amount not to exceed $1,150.00 from various accounts to Cause of Effect Fitness, Inc. to support their annual Metropolitan 5K held on June 19, 2022, and for other purposes. Item 21, 22-01368, an ordinance by Council Member Bond authorizing a donation in an amount not to exceed $500.00 from the Post 1 at-large carry-forward account to the Shaking the Nations Foundation in honor of the 80th birthday of Reverend Dr. Gerald Durley and for other purposes. Item 22, 22-01370, an ordinance by Council Members Westmoreland, Boone, and Overstreet authorizing a donation in an amount not to exceed $5,000.00 from the Post 2 at-large carry-forward account to the Young Middle School to support the holistic wraparound services provided in the den and for other purposes. Item 23, 22-01371, an ordinance by Councilmember Westmoreland authorizing a donation in an amount not to exceed $1,000.00 from the Post 2 at-large carry-forward account to Vox ATL and for other purposes. Oh, that's the one we need.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think in the database, the number is slightly different.
So I do not include 1371 in that. We're going to hold that one out. So 22-01372, an ordinance by Councilmember Matt Westmoreland authorizing a donation in an amount not to exceed $250.00 from the Post 2 at-large carry-forward account to the South Atlantans for Neighborhood Development for the Ormwood Park Makers Festival and for other purposes. And 22-01373, an ordinance by Councilmember Alex Wan authorizing a donation in an amount not to exceed $250.00 from the District 6 distribution account to Atlanta Legal Aid and for other purposes. Any discussion or questions on any of the ones I've read in? Motion from Shook, second from Winston. All right, let's open that vote, please.
Shook and Winston. Vote is open. The vote is closed.
5 yeas. Authorizing a donation in an amount not to exceed $1,000.00 from the Post 2 at-large carry-forward account to Vox ATL and for other purposes. I'll move to approve. Can I get a second? Second. All right. Let's go ahead and make your comment.
Mr. Chair, while Vox ATL is a phenomenal organization that is led by a phenomenal person, that phenomenal person happens to be my wife, and so I'm going to abstain from this vote.
Thank you, Mr. Dozier. Other questions or comments on this paper? All right. Let's open the vote, please.
Vote is open. The vote is closed.
All right, 4 yeas, 0 nays, 1 abstention. For the reason cited, this motion carries, and the papers.
You now have a report, too.
Oh, yeah, you have to. Remember, you do have, there is a paper report you'll have to file. All right. I've been putting this off to read this caption. Okay. 22-01346 is item number 18. An ordinance by Councilmember Howard Shook supplementing the restated and amended Master Bond Ordinance of the City of Atlanta adopted on March 2000, 99-0-1896, as previously amended and supplemented, providing for the issuance by the City of Atlanta of its airport senior lien bonds and hybrid PFC bonds in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $735 million, comprised of its City of Atlanta Airport Passenger Facility Charge and Subordinate Lien General Revenue Forward Delivery Refunding Bond, Series Number Listed, City of Atlanta Airport Passenger Facility Charge and Subordinate Lien General Revenue Forward Delivery Refunding Bond, Series Number Listed, City of Atlanta Airport General Revenue Forward Delivery Refunding Bond, Series Number Listed, and City of Atlanta Airport General Revenue Forward Delivery Refunding Bond, Series Number Listed, collectively the Series 2023 Forward Delivery Refunding Bonds, providing for funds for the purpose of, among other things, refunding and redeeming all or a portion of the outstanding Series 2014 ABC bonds, as further described herein, providing for the forms and authorizing the execution of said Series 2023 Forward Delivery Refunding Bonds, providing for the rights of the holders of said Series 2023 Forward Delivery Refunding Bonds, authorizing the forms of forward delivery bond purchase agreements with respect to each series of Series 2023 Forward Delivery Refunding Bonds, authorizing the execution of a continuing disclosure agreement, authorizing an escrow deposit agreement, designating an escrow agent, paying agent, and bond registrar, authorizing certain officials and employees of the city to take all actions required in connection with the issuance of said Series 2023 Forward Delivery Refunding Bonds, providing for the authorization of certain amendments to the Master Bond Ordinance, and for other related purposes. CFO Bala.
Mohammed Bala, City of Atlanta's Department of Finance, and this ordinance before you is a refunding opportunity, which is essentially refinancing some outstanding bonds at the Department of Aviation, and we are asking to hold this for one cycle. We'll substitute it on 5/25, and then it will be referred to the special call meeting in June.
Any questions or comments for the CFO? Not, I'll put forward a motion to hold. Is there a second? Seconded by Shook. If there's no further discussion, let's open the vote to hold, please.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. This item will be held. All right, I believe that wraps up all of our ordinances and takes us to resolutions, correct? All right. First item is 26, which is 22-R3575, resolution by Councilmember Alex Wan authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to refund customers for overpayments to water and sewer accounts in an amount of blank, all funds to be charged to and paid from fund, department, organization, account numbers listed, and for other purposes. This is our standard shell paper. I'll put forward a motion to hold, seconded by Shook. Any further discussion on this item? If not, let's open the vote, please.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. This item is approved. Next item, 22-R3578, a resolution by council members Lewis, Amos, Bond, Boone, Overstreet, and Waits to request the Department of Human Resources provide a report listing the employees within the Department of Public Works, Watershed Management, and Parks and Recreation who are eligible to receive premium pay as authorized pursuant to Ordinance 21-0-0709 by employee classification and job title, and to include payroll verification that the premium pay was received by the employees and for other purposes. I don't see the commissioner here. Is there? Oh, there he is. Sorry. Commissioner, I didn't know if you had any comments to make on this paper.
Good afternoon. Jeffrey Norman, Commissioner of Human Resources. Did have an opportunity to review the resolution. We do have access, obviously, to that data and can make sure that we report on that at the next Finance Executive meeting. I think, as I noted earlier in the presentation, the Department of Watershed Management was not included as part of the premium pay program. But there is some additional information that's been provided by Watershed that I think will be helpful as part of that report out at the next Finance Executive meeting.
Questions or comments from my colleagues? Is there a motion? Motion from Winston, second from Shook. Okay. Let's open the vote, please.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. This item is approved. Next item, 22-R3635, a resolution by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute the 8th Amendment to Agreement Number FC10398, Citywide Electrical Repair and Maintenance Service with Capital City Electrical Services, LLC, to add the Mayor's Office of Cultural Affairs as an authorized user in an amount not to exceed $170,000.00. Add to funding on behalf of the Department of Enterprise Asset Management in an amount not to exceed $112,704.47 for a total amount not to exceed $282,704.47. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the fund, department, organization, and account number listed herein and for other purposes. The amendment adds funding for the Department of Enterprise Asset Management not to exceed $112,704.47 and for the Atlanta Department of Transportation in an amount not to exceed $165,092.22. Total not to exceed amount is now $447,796.69. Ms. Kempson-Wright, because the caption has changed now, should we not have a substitute for it that replaces all of that?
No, and the reason that it's only an amendment versus a substitute, we're not actually removing blocks of language or inserting blocks of language, or it's not changing the substance at all. We're only updating the amount and adding, I believe it's 2 departments funding, so it's minor.
Yeah, but then,
However you like it to be a substitute, we can let it be one.
or the amendment needs to amend the caption, because I don't want this to then go in and someone looks it up and sees a total of 282,000 and in the body sees it's actually 447,000.
The caption is,
Oh, it has been,
yes, if you're in your packet. And actually, we do have it as a substitute. And the substitute caption is in your packet.
okay, all right, so the amendment will be to bring forward the substitute that captures all this, both in the caption and in the body of the paragraph. So I'll make that motion. Is there seconded by Shook? Is there any further discussion? All right, seeing none, let's open that vote, please, to amend.
One moment. The vote is open. I have it wrong on here. Vote is closed.
All right, 5 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries, so we're doing this as a substitute, right? All right, the substitute is now before us. Mr. Santil, do you want to comment about this paper?
Oh,
Go ahead.
good afternoon. Again, my name is Chris Davis.
Oh,
Deputy
Davis, sorry.
Commissioner.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I was reading.
Purpose of this legislation is entered into the Eighth Amendment with citywide electrical repair maintenance services with Capital City Electric on behalf of the Department of Access Management and Cultural Affairs. The substitution, we also adding Department of Transportation to the contract as well for work that's being done at Cascade Springs Nature Preserve. Purpose of the amendment is we have some electrical services that we're going to be doing some repairs to the exterior lighting system for DEAM. Department of Office Cultural Affairs is from some additional work that they're adding to be able to provide some electrical services for some projects that they're working on.
All right. So you weren't able to get any more detail on the cultural affairs?
We did request someone to come today to speak on behalf of what they wanted the services for.
I was just curious. I wasn't sure if this was for the Jazz Festival or, but if you'll come up forward.
My name is Robert Witherspoon with the Mayor's Office of Cultural Affairs. In concern of the projects, the Jazz Festival is not one of the projects. This is for public art conservation projects. There are 2 public art plazas that will have some restoration done, and in addition, we will illuminate and light up 2 additional public artworks.
That makes perfect sense. Okay, thank you for the clarification. Questions or comments from my colleagues? There's a motion from Shook to approve on substitute, seconded by Dozier. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. This item is approved on substitute. Item number 22-R3635, it's a resolution by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute the 8th Amendment. Oh, that was the one I just read. 22-R3636, it's a resolution by Finance Executive Committee to amend cooperative purchasing arrangement number listed to authorize the Atlanta Fire and Rescue Department, the Department of Aviation, the Department of Watershed Management, and the Department of Public Works purchase office furniture from the 32 manufacturers listed herein in accordance with Section 2-1606 of Article 10, Procurement and Real Estate Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, utilizing State of Georgia statewide contract number listed in an amount not to exceed $703,000.00. All contracted work shall be charged to and paid from funding accounts listed herein and for other purposes. Okay, so the amendment adds another $600,000 for the Department of City Planning and decrease the Department of Aviation in an amount from $100,000 to $96,000. Total not to exceed amount is $1.314 million. So let's, same thing. We'll bring forward the substitute that has the changes in the caption as well as the body, correct? All right, I'll make that motion to bring forward the substitute. Seconded by Shook.
One moment.
Thank you.
vote is open. The vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. The substitute is now before us. Mr. Davis.
Good afternoon again. My name is Chris Davis. The purpose of this substitute legislation is to add to City Planning Department funding stream in the amount which will not exceed $600,000. The substitute also decreases the amount of the Department of Aviation from $100,000 to $96,000. Funding stream for planning, which is from the Capital Finance Fund and the DCP Commissioner, and the furniture and fixture for the Chief Executive Office for some of the restack work that they are proposing.
All right, questions for Mr. Davis? Motion from Shook to approve on substitute, seconded by Wentz. I just hear a second here. I'm not sure. All right, let's open that vote.
The vote is open. Vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. This item is approved on substitute. So it takes us to item 30, which is 22-R3637. It's a resolution by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the Department of Finance to enter into Amendment Number 2 to FC 9334 Business Licensing Cashier Management System Agreement with Tyler Technologies, Inc. to add funding for the 90-day extension period in an amount not to exceed $72,719.00. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the fund department organization and account numbers listed herein and for other purposes. It's my understanding the department wishes to hold this paper. Is that correct, CFO Bala? Yes. Okay. All right. Okay. I'll put forward the motion to hold, seconded by Shook. Let's open that vote, please.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. This item will be held. Takes us to 31, 22-R3638. We have a substitute for it. Do we, Ms. Kempthright? It's not in the packet.
It is not. 1 second.
Ms. Carr, while she's doing that, can you just, will the caption change? Can I go ahead and read that in?
Yes, I think it'll add aviation. That was a substitute.
I'll just go ahead and read the caption in it of what we have originally. It's a resolution by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the Department of Finance and the Department of Watershed Management to execute a special procurement agreement, number listed, GASB 87 Software and Consulting Services with GCR Inc., doing business as Civics, pursuant to section number 2-1191.1 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, for the purpose of providing a cloud-based application and consulting services to assist with the implementation of Governmental Accounting Standards Board Statement 87 leases effective June 15, 2022 through June 14, 2025 for a term of 3 years with up to 2 one-year renewal options in an amount not to exceed $325,000.00. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the fund department organization and account numbers listed herein and for other purposes. Ms. Kempson-Wright, should we come back to this one?
I can read the substitute caption if you would like me to. A substitute resolution by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the Department of Finance, Department of Watershed Management, and the Department of Aviation to execute a special procurement agreement, software and consulting services with GCR Incorporated, doing business as Civics, pursuant to Section 2-1191.1 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances for the purpose of providing a cloud-based application and consulting service to assist with the implementation in Governmental Accounting Standards Board. Statement 87 leases effective June 15, 2022 for a term of 3 years with up to 2 one-year renewal options in an amount not to exceed. The new amount is $389,100.00.
Let's go ahead and I'll make a motion to bring forward the substitute. You heard the caption, seconded by Dozier. There's no further discussion on the motion to bring forward the substitute. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. The substitute is before us. Ms. Carr.
Good afternoon, Yolanda Carr, Interim Deputy CFO. This is really an accounting legislation. GASB 87 is how we account for leases, and this is the first year. So we wanted to get out in front of it to make sure that we had the services in place prior to the end of the fiscal year. And this will be split between watershed, aviation, and central.
So for those of us that are reporting nerds, what is high level, what are the changes that are impacting us?
Sure. So really is how we account for operating leases. So we really need to determine whether or not, we are the lessee or the lessor. And so really aviation would be heavily impacted because they have a lot of leases. And so really all municipalities have to go through this process of implementing this new standard for GASB 87.
And the standard is applying to our FY 2022 reporting?
That is correct. It's effective for this fiscal year.
Other questions? Motion from Shook to approve on substitute, seconded by Winston. There's no further discussion. Let's open that vote, please.
Vote is open.
5 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. This item is approved on substitute. All right, we have one. That concludes our resolutions. It now takes us to dual referred items. We do have one that was moved out of City Utilities. That's 22-R3574. It's a resolution by Councilmember Byron Amos requesting the Fulton County Tax Commissioner to no longer sell City of Atlanta solid waste service fee liens for residents 55 years of age and older and for other purposes. This came out of City Utilities, amended to change the age floor from 55 to 65 years. I believe it came out unanimously from that committee and is now before us. Is there any discussion or questions on this paper? There's a motion from Shook to approve as amended. All right, second from Dozier. Let's open that vote, please.
Vote is open.
You really did. It was identical.
Vote is closed.
All right, 5 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. This item is approved as amended. All right, do we have any papers coming off of held?
Yes.
We do. Uh-oh. Oh, I see it. Item 47, right? Okay, it's item 22-R-3424. Resolution by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute a sole source agreement for contract number listed and Questa Customer Information System maintenance, support, and related services, sole source with Systems and Software, Inc. on behalf of the Department of Watershed Management for a term of 3 years beginning August 1, 2022 and ending July 31, 2025, with 2 one-year renewal options in an amount not to exceed $5,124,823.15. Subject to and expressly contingent upon the approval of budgets for FY 2023, 24, and 25. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the fund department organization and account numbers listed herein and for other purposes. We have an amendment on this. The amendment adds the iPro report. So I'll move to amend to attach the iPro report. Is there a second? Second by Shook. There's no further discussion. Let's open the vote to amend.
Vote is open. Will everyone please vote? Vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. The paper is amended and now before us. Ms. Rackley.
Good afternoon. Daphne Rackley, Deputy CIO, and I'm before you today to seek approval for the establishment of a new contract for the Department of Watershed Management, but this contract is for a system called Questa. It's their customer information system that is used for water and sewer billing purposes, and it's an existing system that has been utilized by the department since around 2005, 2006. As I mentioned, it is for the purpose of water and sewer billing as well as some grease accounts, so it handles about 180,000 different customers that are billed through this CIS.
Are there any questions for Ms. Rackley? And I'm assuming that the procurement letter that justifies the sole source is in here?
Yes.
Okay. All right, there's a motion from Shook to approve as amended, seconded by Dozier. If there's no further discussion, let's open that vote, please. Yep, there it is.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. This item is approved as amended. Ms. Kempster, right, is that all of our legislative items?
Yes, it does.
Okay, all right, that takes us to, is there any general remarks for, just a reminder to everybody that our budget hearings continue on Tuesday, 10 a.m., I believe it's, and then there's a work session tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Is that going to be in here or chambers? In here?
Well, I don't know.
It's reserved for in Committee Room 1.
All right, so it's scheduled to be in here tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. to review the solid waste fee, 3 pieces of legislation. Yeah, I was going to say we might need to be prepared to move in case we get a lot of public attendance.
Okay.
Well, plus, it's officially a joint committee deal, so
all of it.
I don't know how much overlap we have. So,
yeah, Mr. CFO Bala, please.
Just one point of clarification. During the Invest Atlanta presentation, it was mentioned that requirement for a business license to apply. You do not need the business license to apply, but you need one to receive the grant. So the proof of the business license can come on the back end.
Thank you, CFO Bala. Anything else? If not, then we stand adjourned. Thank you very much. Did you have something? Oh, sorry.
I just thought I would add, in the absence of Councilmember Michael Julian Bond, that he is right now having a HelloFresh event at the Shrine of Black Madonna on 956 Ralph David Abernathy Road. So just wanted everyone to know that right now.
District 4.
All right. Thank you, everybody. We stand adjourned.